So hello and welcome to episode 30, I believe. Yes, episode 30. And in this episode, we are going to be looking at modifiers. So modifiers basically are used to set the access level for classes, attributes, methods, and constructors. And the other term for modifiers, you might hear them being referred to as access specifiers because they specify the level of access for a particular entity, right? Either a class, an attribute, a method, or a constructor. Then they are also used to provide additional functionality to certain components of our program. Like for instance, we have non-access modifiers that you can make use of. So let's actually move on to slide number 3. And so for the access modifiers, that is the modifiers that actually make you have access to certain elements within your code. We have 3 that actually have a keyword. Then the fourth one, the default one, this one right here, it actually is not a keyword per se, but it's implied, right? So this one they're explicit, then this one is implicit. So basically the default access is implied. So let's actually look at how you can branch these out, because these access modifiers, they can be used on classes and they can also be used on attributes, methods and constructors. So let's actually look for classes. So for classes, you are almost always going to want to define your classes as public, otherwise you don't want to make it public, in which case you are just going to leave it without an access specifier. So you can use either the public access specifier, or you can simply leave it without the public keyword, which by then is implied that it's default. So public access it means that your class is going to be accessible by any other class, or rather any other Java class as it will. Then the default access this means that it is only accessible by the classes in the same package. So you would want to use this when you do not by default, if you do not put an access specifier, right, like public, it means that your class by default has package level access as it were. So for instance, if you were to declare a class just starting with the class keyword, like maybe let me come here, this is code from the previous tutorial. So if I were to remove this class, that's the public keyword right there, this means that this constructors class is only visible within the package in which it resides. So we'll be looking at packages as we progress, but yeah, those are the 2 levels of access for classes. Then sometimes, but this one is not really that common. Yeah, maybe when you move on with your Java, as you progress with your Java journey, sometimes you can declare a private class, but it's not really, the use cases are quite few, if I should say. Sometimes they're also protected classes as well, yeah. So but the most common one for a class is public. Then if you don't put public, you are going to it's implied that it's a default access level. Then you can also modify access for attributes, methods and constructors. So public, the code is accessible for all classes. Private simply means the code is only accessible within the declared class. So sometimes you might want to declare an attribute as private, or a method as private, or a constructor as private. So that simply means it's going to be visible within the declared class, and if you were to try to access it from outside of that class, you'd get an error. Then protected, it simply means that it's accessible in the same package and subclasses. Again, we'll be looking at packages as we progress with the series. But subclasses, basically think of it as child classes, that is classes that basically inherit from a particular class. So we'll be looking at that as well. Then of course default again is implied for attributes, methods and constructors. Like for instance, in this example right here, you see that we have string name, right? So by default, this means that these 2 attributes on line 6 and line 7, that is string name and double price, they are only accessible within the package. So if you do not specify, you need to bear in mind that you only have package level access for your particular attributes or methods or constructors. Then we move on to non-access modifiers. So this is the list of non-access modifiers. Then I should quickly point out that for this level of programming, at this level, these are the only 3 that you really need to worry about. Those are the three. Maybe you can just read through. Maybe you might as well even do some research. But for the most part, you are not going to use these. I haven't really seen where you want to use these for your AS and A-level Java programming. But these three, definitely you get a chance to use them, particularly the final and the static. The abstract, it does come in a little bit here and there, but it's not as common as static and final, but you might just want to know how to make use of it. So for classes, you can either use final or abstract, right? So final simply means that a class cannot be inherited from. So remember earlier on we talked about a parent class and a child class, right? So the parent class will be the superclass and the child class will be the subclass. So basically, if you declare your class as final, it means that it cannot be extended from, or it cannot be inherited by another class. Then an abstract class is basically a class that you cannot create objects from. Also to note that to access an abstract class, it must be inherited from another class. So you cannot extend, as it were, an abstract class. You would actually need to actually inherit from another class in order for you to make use of an abstract class, because you cannot create objects from it. Then we also look at non-access modifiers for attributes and methods. So these ones, remember I said you only need to worry about final, static, maybe abstract, but these are the three. I'm not going to talk about them because we barely use these at this level of programming. But as you progress with your Java journey, you realize that you actually can make use of these. So final, I think we've seen this one in action. Basically, it makes methods and attributes final, as it were. So you cannot override or modify a final attribute or a method. Then static simply means that it belongs to a class rather than an object. So you've seen this, I think maybe in recent episodes that we've done, we've seen the static keyword being used, and we know that when you declare something as static, it means that you do not create an object in order for you to actually use that particular thing. Then abstract, again, can only be used in an abstract class, and it can only be used on methods, right? So you cannot make an attribute abstract. The only thing that you can make abstract is a method. And it is important to also notice that the method that you declare as abstract is not going to have a body, right? So for instance, you could just declare a method like abstract void run. Then the body is actually going to be implemented, or it's going to be provided by the subclass. So typically you'd create an abstract class as a superclass. Then the superclass is actually going to have subclasses that are actually going to provide the implementation for the methods that you would have declared as what? As abstract. Then for transient, synchronized, and volatile, I can promise you that you barely use these, if not at all, because this level of programming, these are quite advanced. And since we are only limited to console applications, we only need to worry about the top two, rather the top three, right? With emphasis on the final and the static modifiers thing. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.